Welcome, everyone, to another episode of I'm Human Too with Heather Hart. Today we have a really fun guest. She's been on before, Tasha Hunter, and I'm really excited to have her back on to talk about her new book. So, welcome. How's it going?
Thank you so much, Heather, for inviting me back. It was a total shocker, and I'm like, "Yay, I get to go!" But I love your podcast, and I feel really honored to be back here again.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I enjoyed our first conversation. So when I saw that you had released your new book, I was like, oh my gosh, I want to hear like all the things. And so it was an obvious choice for me. Yes.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Yes. So tell us about your new book. Tell us kind of what the process has been and a little bit about
Yeah.
it.
So, my most recent book, Baby, Tell Me Where It Hurts. It was okay. So I have to give you a little bit of the backstory. So this may be a little long-winded. But I
That's no
started
problem.
writing, maybe I don't know. I've been writing my whole life, but I started this particular project uh, probably at the same time that I wrote my memoir. 5 or 6 years ago, I started writing, and so everything I had I said I'm going to write until I have about 100 pieces to edit and release, knowing that the 100 pieces wouldn't make the cut. Like it was only going to be a fraction of that. Like when you go through the editing process. And my computer crashed and I lost everything.
Oh my gosh.
Um, and so total devastation and shock for a really long time.
Yeah.
Um, and so that happened. And Tell Me Where It Hurts was is something that just beautifully came out of that because I kept writing. I kept writing the wound, and um, that's how, since I was a child, how I've kind of metabolized the trauma, the pain, the
Mm-hmm.
secrets, all the things that I can't really say out loud.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and it's my favorite form of therapy. So I just started writing, and I just every day, even a lot of the things that I write on Instagram are in the book. And some things that I just wouldn't dare post on Instagram are in the book.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so Tell Me Where It Hurts it's about um, really recognizing the wound. And I have a bad memory, so I'm going to just go to the front where my chapters
Mm-hmm.
are.
Mm-hmm.
And so the first chapter is excavating the wound. And so in that chapter, I'm really just, it's all about the pain
Mm-hmm.
as I felt it at the time. I'm not trying to make it pretty. Then
Mm-hmm.
the next chapter is tending to the wound, and it's my process of like when I start going through therapy, how am I feeling the pain now as I'm tending to it? As I'm in therapy and I'm connecting with close friends, and I'm just going deeper into understanding myself and also understanding other people.
Mm-hmm.
And then chapter 3 is my favorite chapter, I think. I don't know, it's all my favorite, but healing the wound is the third chapter. And so by then you've seen, oh, I'm not writing from the wound, I'm writing from the scar, so to speak.
Yeah.
I've learned some things. Life is a little bit lighter. There's a lot more clarity. The love that I have for myself, for my partner, for others, it's evident.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah, that's really the process, though, isn't it? For healing, it's first you're excavating it, you're digging deep, you're looking at it, you're questioning it, uh,
Mm-hmm.
you're
Mm-hmm.
meeting the pain, and then you're tending to it, you're taking care of it, and whatever
Mm-hmm.
that looks like. and then the third process is usually what does healing look like, and that looks different for everybody. Um, so yeah, so that's the short of the long, I guess, of how
Yeah.
Tell Me Where It Hurts was created. And can I just share one more other thing about it too?
Yes. Yeah.
Um, through the editing process, I'm working with my editor Melissa, and I have these questions in the book, and through in certain parts of it where I'm kind of inviting readers in, but not explicitly, just like
Mm.
wanting readers to kind of think about some things. And so my editor said, Tasha, why don't you actually make space so that folks can you actually are bringing them in, and they can, like when I write about how I'm saving my own life, and I
Mm.
list the steps of how I am saving my life. Why don't you invite readers to write how are they saving their own lives?
Mm.
And so I've got that throughout. So it's not just poetry.
Mhm.
Um, it's there's spaces to journal, to reflect, um, to kind of integrate what's being learned, what's being processed. So
Mm. That's beautiful. And I'm curious if it was intentional to have the book kind of, I know it's explaining your process, but was it more intentional in the editing process to then parallel and mirror the therapeutic process and what that growth journey is?
I didn't realize I had done that
Yeah.
until honestly
Yeah.
just now.
Yeah.
Like just talking about, I was like, wait a minute, I did
Yeah.
something
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Yeah.
there. But no, in writing it, it was it was all about me.
Mm-hmm.
My astrological sign is Leo, and if
Okay.
Leos tend to be like all about themselves,
Okay.
and so yeah, this book was all about like what am I going through, what am I feeling. It's about my pain. It's
Mm.
yeah, what
Yes.
do I want to say about all the
Right.
things.
Yeah.
Um, and I I also wanted to show that yeah, I'm a therapist, but I'm also a deeply vulnerable person
Yeah.
going through everyday stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that most people know that, but sometimes I don't know that our clients really realize.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that I'm not this super evolved person, all knowing. I don't have all the answers. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I can be in it with you, but I don't have an answer.
I I
Yeah.
can try to help you, but really sometimes I'm going through the same stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a human one time who had come to me because their therapist at the time literally shared that, like, I don't know how to help you, I don't know what direction to set you in, because like I'm experiencing a lot of what you're experiencing. And for
Hmm.
that human it was so enlightening and helpful because it wasn't like um you know unset expectation. It was like, oh, you're a human, I'm a human, my needs aren't going to get met here, so I need to go somewhere else. And it was sad for them. There was grief, but it was like freeing and healing that someone was
Hmm.
actually attuned to themselves enough to say, I can't fulfill this for you right now. Like, and I think
Hmm.
we often fail to do that in the therapeutic community. Like, we have to be real with our capacity and where we're at and what our experiences are, and when that those limitations come up, because at the end of the day, like, yeah, we're a human and we
Yeah.
don't have the answers.
Yeah. Yeah. That
Yeah.
is so true. It was, I think, my therapist who gave me that bit of advice when I was opening my private practice and doing all the things. And she said,
Mm.
the things that you quote unquote specialize in
Hmm.
are a lot of the things that you have experienced. And it's okay. Like you can you cannot have that as a niche. Like you can stay away from
Mhm.
that if it's too close, if it's still too painful,
Mhm.
if the wound is too fresh. Don't feel like,
Mhm.
oh, just because you have experience in it,
Mhm.
you've got to now be the therapist for others going through it.
Mhm.
And it helped me to understand too why so many therapists who start out as quote unquote trauma therapists
Mhm.
remove that from their website, from all the things, and they go in other directions because sometimes it's just too much. Even though
Mhm.
we're always dealing with trauma, we don't have to specifically focus on it in that way. So,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
it gave me the freedom to back away from things that I saw. Oh yeah, like I've experienced infertility. So
Mhm.
I can work with folks who have gone through infant loss and infertility and all the
Mhm.
things and realize that, yeah, that wound is way too fresh and I can't touch that
Yeah.
right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
shout out to that therapist, whoever that was. Like it takes a lot of courage to make those decisions and to have that conversation with our clients.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and it is the reality of, I mean, as you heal, generally speaking, you want to be in light spaces more and more. And so having to be in other people's trauma does not feel light, does not feel
Yeah,
easy. And so it's hard to hold that, yeah, juxtaposition between your own healing or your own journey, your own trauma, and someone else's.
for sure.
Um, and for me, like, yeah, kind of raised in the trenches of like social worker, agency mentality. It's hard to set those boundaries, even
Hmm.
around like scheduling. And as I've grown up as a therapist, I've realized myself like it is so important to set the boundary. And it's nothing personal. It's nothing to say like I can't do it or I'm failing. I think we internalize a lot often. That's kind of our tendency. And so, even learning those internal boundaries of like, I'm setting this boundary for future me, for healthy me, for the person I want to be, or the life I need to be living or wanting to be living, um,
Hmm.
is important. And we don't start out like that as therapists because we are still very much in our own shit oftentimes and
We
we don't
are.
even realize it.
Yeah, we don't realize it, and as therapists, as social workers and therapists, we are accustomed to putting community and our clients, even, and if for those that work in like community mental health or group practices, we're used to putting everybody else, the
Mm-hmm.
company, before our own needs.
Mm-hmm.
So as much as we talk about boundaries, it can also be one of our greatest issues, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
uh, because we are taught that, like, that the everything else basically is the priority,
Mm-hmm.
and so we don't really make time to heal ourselves and to work through our own stuff and to prioritize ourselves. And it just kind of it can keep us in a loop. And I'm really speaking for myself in that, like, um, it's taken a while to realize that, oh, I actually do need to put myself first in every regard.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, that's something I've never done before.
Do you feel like that was a part of this journey in creating this book?
Tell Me Where It Hurts was definitely a part of that journey. Um, I remember going through some relationship stuff with my ex husband and just realizing that for my entire life, everyone came before me, and I'm a military veteran. I don't usually even name that often because I'm not proud of it at all.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but in the military, we're trained that the mission comes first.
Mm-hmm.
Even if we don't even fucking know what the mission is, it comes first. Like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, country comes first. Um, and it was a joke, but the chain of command would often laugh at some of our meetings, and they'd say, if we wanted you to have family, like we would have issued you your family. If we wanted you to have a spouse, we would have issued you a spouse. If we wanted you to have
Mm.
children, we would have. Obviously, we don't want you to have that. So, mission comes first.
Yeah.
Um, and um, so that's what that means. And it was not uncommon, yeah, for everything, for all of my needs to take a back seat, including my emotional and mental health.
Mm.
And then getting married and being brought up or believing in the biblical sense of like what a spouse or wife is supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
We're raised to believe that the husband comes first.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now I'm 45 and I'm on the other side of things. And life is so
You're like,
different
damn.
now.
Yeah.
And decentering whiteness, decentering
Mm-hmm.
men, decentering all that shit. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, wait, I'm actually important.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody nobody's take can take care of me the way that I can take care of myself. So tell me where it hurts is is really proof of like where I started and where I'm at now. And
Mm.
that I'm really focused on loving myself fully and completely and intentionally and consistently.
Keyword.
That's
Yeah.
Yeah, consistently. That's evident through my writing. Yeah,
Yeah. Hmm. That's pretty incredible because
yeah,
sure, like there's a lot of knowing, if you're raised in it.
yeah.
So to be able to step back and even evaluate, like, is this something I still want, or is this serving me? Do I want
Mhm.
something else? Is really powerful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It is. It's a um it's a really big deal to step away from some of the things that we were raised in. Um or speaking for myself, that I was raised in. I was raised in church where it's like um God comes first,
Mm-hmm.
and then the pastor, then your husband comes second,
Mm-hmm.
and then your children
Mm-hmm.
and your community, and there's this whole hierarchy.
Yeah.
And um and not learning to kind of, I always say, like, dropping into my own system to really think about, like, well, what do I want
Mm-hmm.
and what do I need?
That's never really a question that comes up
No.
when I'm working with individuals that have experienced, like,
Yeah.
yeah, they grew up in religion or they've experienced spiritual harm or.
Yeah, and breaking away, um and learning what you need, how do you feel, what makes you happy.
Yes.
I think it's um what we or society, what society has previously called the midlife
Mm.
crisis. It's when people start making radical decisions, changing their hair, changing their body, dating in a different way,
Mm-hmm.
uh, being quote unquote, a little bit more. self-involved, self-centered.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Now that I am middle age, I'm 45, I don't feel that it's a midlife crisis.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be, especially when I consider the people, the clients that I work with who are around the same age range or older. It's not until we get late 30s, 40s, early 50s that we're like, oh, wait, I have been living for everyone else. I have been making decisions that's in everybody else's best interest. What do I actually like? And who am I,
Mm-hmm.
anyways?
Mm-hmm.
Who am I? What do I really want?
Mm-hmm.
And so, again, my book is that's it. Is it okay if I read a little
Yeah, please
something?
do.
Wait a minute, I'm not even prepared. Am I gonna? Oh, I
Of
found it.
course.
Okay, that's a
Perfect.
surprise. Uh, July of 2023. Um, I wrote, "Who am I? Lover, lesbian, Leo, a walking contradiction, mother, sister, friend, storyteller, truth teller, powerful manifester, healer, dreamer, word weaver, believer, serious about healing and purpose, explorer of the goddess within us, determination, rage,
Mm-hmm.
compassion, infectious laughter, hunger, passion, childlike wonder, creative, rebellious, learning to live for the first time in my life."
Mm-hmm.
And so that kind of it wasn't, it's not, it doesn't feel like it's not a crisis. It's a coming home.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, like, who am I really?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not just a wife. I'm not just a mother.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not just a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much more. And so this time in my life, and in my writing, is reflective of, I was everything that everyone else needed me to be before, but now I'm exactly the person that I was born to be, the person that I want to be,
Mm-hmm.
authentically, unapologetically.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I look at the younger generations, and I say that and date myself, but it's so wild how quickly they come into places of authenticity. Like yeah, the things that they're able to say and do at such a young age. There's like a tendency for like yeah, just I think uh maybe a curiosity or a yearning of like what would my life have been had I figured out who I was at 20, right? Like, and although we can't go back, we can only go forward. It begs that question and that need and that want of living authentically, and you have learned how to do that, and that's beautiful. And I'll sit with women who figure that out at 40, 30, 60, 70, 80, and they'll be like, this regret of like, I wasted my life. So I'm curious, like, now that you know who you are and you've lived authentically, like, how do you hold that space for the parts of you that wasn't living out a fullness?
Mhm.
Like, how do you manage who you were and who you are now and that grief?
Mm. I like to think of it as, when I think back to younger Tasha, all the younger Tashas, each version of me was who and what I needed to be in that
Mm,
moment. So whatever decisions I made, wrong, right, or indifferent, was made from a perspective of needing to protect myself, needing to be resourced, um, needing to obtain certain things, whether that's belonging, family, needing to cure loneliness, needing to create a life for myself. So every decision, even though, yeah, I can definitely say I wasn't the fullest version of myself, there was a purpose there. And I didn't really know it at the time. I was in the thick of it, just doing the best I could, making decisions as best I knew how in the moment with the information and the resources that I had, and the hand that I had been dealt. Now, 4.5 decades later, and I look back and I'm like, wow, like I'm proud of all the previous me's. I felt some sadness. I moved it, went through like maybe 5 years of like real grief of all the things that were lost. And I try not to think about like what ifs too much, because if other decisions had been made, I wouldn't be who I am today. I wouldn't have met the person who is the love of my life. I wouldn't have met her. I wouldn't have gone through all the things.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, so they had their purpose. Each decision, each version of me had a purpose. And I meet each one with so much understanding, so much love.
Yeah, and I imagine that self-compassion for all parts of self really help you move through that grief and settle into, this comfort that there was purpose in everything that happened. And there is still purpose in the way that you move forward.
It's kind of, as we're having this conversation, I even there have been moments where, not recently, but where I thought about certain people that I used to be friends with, that I thought, oh, we're going to be friends forever. And for whatever the reason, the friendship ended. We don't talk anymore. All of the things. I remember one friend having a really vulnerable conversation and telling her, I was married to my ex-husband, and we were married at the time, and I just confided in my friend. I said, I'm queer, and I've been queer my whole life, and after that conversation, she never spoke to me again. And that's happened several times, by the way. And so when I think about, there were moments in my own becoming where I really grieved those relationships. The fact that I couldn't be myself, that they only wanted like the version of me that was acceptable to them.
Yeah.
And she never explained why. She said that she didn't name my queerness. She just said that her husband was uncomfortable with us being friends.
Yeah. Way to pass the buck there.
And so, yeah. And so, but now, like at the time, it hurt, and it hurt for years after. But then now I think about it, and I'm like, would I really ever want people in my life that wouldn't accept all of me?
That's a good question.
And yeah, so it was even in them leaving and deciding that they couldn't. I remember I lost another friend. I didn't even know I was going to talk about this. I lost another friend because I told her that I wanted to focus on working with the queer and trans community. And I didn't come out to her. I just said, that's the work that I feel called to do. And she said, oh my God, that's crazy. Why would you want to work with that population?
Wow.
And that let me know everything I needed to know. and she's a therapist and a
Yeah.
social worker.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, I didn't know that was gonna come up. But anyways, um, I was telling somebody the other day, Heather, that we have to grieve.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's all a part of it. Like we don't get to go through life without
Mm-hmm.
grieving, probably many times.
Mm-hmm.
So I spent about 5 years in my own
Mm-hmm.
grief. Did I make the right decision? Didn't I? Why did I open myself up to this person? Why did I do this? All the things.
Mm-hmm.
And now on the other side of it, I'm so proud of myself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and I love me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like I'm the happiest in my life now that I've ever been. So yeah, so I feel like every piece of this, my book Tell Me Where It Hurts, again, it's like it's proof that I did my work.
Yeah.
I went through all the things. I didn't leave anything like unprocessed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm so many of us we don't heal because we're afraid of feeling the pain. We're afraid that if we talk about it, if we process it, if we sit with it, that it's going to take us all the way
Yeah.
down. And I'm again on the other side saying, no, 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 no. You have to, like, you have to,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, yeah, you have to. I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that I healed everything as much as it could be healed up to this point.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if 100% healing is a thing. I don't know. I can't claim that.
Mm-hmm.
But what I do know is that I didn't know joy or happiness or true love until I found it within myself
Mm-hmm.
and like really went through all the processes that I needed to go through to address all of my wounds, all of my trauma.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think I have so many thoughts, but um, it is your self love will be tested when you're in that grief work and when you're in that grief journey work. And you have
Mm-hmm.
to, yeah, decide, am I going to choose me or am I going to choose the people that don't choose me, or the situations or environments that can't choose me or won't choose me? Um, and really evaluating, like, what is the place I'm working from? And
Mm-hmm.
that's really hard, and I think that's a part of growth that we don't really talk about, is the grief and loss in parallel to that growth. Because we do
Mm-hmm.
outgrow people, absolutely, and people outgrow us. Like, who I was
Mm-hmm.
10 years ago, who you were 5 years ago, 20 years ago, like, we are not those same people. It's a natural
Mm-hmm.
evolution to, yeah, grow out of relationship and also grow into new relationship with self and others.
Mm-hmm.
But it's painful, it's very
Mm-hmm.
painful, and it's hard. It can be lonely for some when it feels like, I'm content in me and I'm feeling happy in me, but like, I don't have many people around me anymore. And it's like, well, maybe that's like an indication to what you used to tolerate, or the capacity for
Yeah.
toxicity or like harm or hurt, like, right. And I
Mm-hmm.
think the most important factor is rebuilding in that healthy growth space. You don't have to stay in that alone. Like, you are worthy and deserving to be celebrated and held and loved on and supported and cared for. So even though that self-love grows, it's that, I think there's something that shakes people when that growth in relationship has happened and a shedding has happened. It's like, well, then how do I know I can trust myself again? Like, how do I know I can
Sure.
trust the decisions and who I choose to be around me? And it's like, well, that has
Mm-hmm.
also changed. Right? Like, you're not gonna, right, your filtering process has changed
Yeah.
in that.
Yeah, I think that if we're paying attention, like like that fear of like how can I trust myself again? How do I know I won't make the same mistakes? But if you're paying attention, then when the next person comes,
Mhm.
if they show any behaviors that you've noticed from other dysfunctional or toxic relationships, again, you got to be paying
Mhm.
attention. Then you know exactly what you need to do. You don't stay in
Yeah.
it. Often we repeat the cycle because we're so unaware. But once you have awareness,
Mhm.
you can't pretend to not see the thing that's
Yeah.
happening, to not hear the thing, and so then you make better decisions for
Mhm.
yourself. I think I wrote in my book too that assholes don't discriminate. So it's not like all of a sudden, now that you're healed, now that you're evolved, now that you know a few things, you've been to therapy and all of this stuff, that, oh, no more assholes will come into your presence. No, they
Yes.
will.
Yeah.
And how do you know that you're a little bit better? Well, you're going to make different decisions when you're presented with
Mhm.
asshole
Mhm.
behavior or the presence of such. So,
Mhm.
um, yeah, it's okay. Like, yeah, yeah, that fear is understandable. And as Dr. Maya Angelou says, when you know better, you do better.
Mhm. Yeah. 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 I do you ever just go to your your book and like it feels like a very clear blueprint of um like I have already lived this, right? Like
Mhm.
in that growth journey, I could see like, okay, those moments where that doubt or fear or worry or like that check yourself comes in, like, nope, I did this, I've done this work, I am not going, back down this piece. I'm, like just having a feels like a proof, like, you know, and in a gentle
Yeah.
accountability of like, you know, I don't know even what I'm trying to say with that, but
Yeah, no, well, to answer your question, no, I don't go to my book as like, but, and reference
like,
it.
is
I
it
don't.
real?
Um,
Yes.
but, but there is so much. I feel like I've lived 1,000 lives already. I've done so much, been through so much. Um, and a lot of the things that I went through were
Mm,
self-inflicted. Like I made dumb decisions or I made decisions based out of my own
mm,
insecurity or my own fears. Um, and so I was telling my partner that December of last year, I was in Arizona with some friends, and I just said to myself, we were had a plant medicine ceremony, and out of that I was like, I'm done betting against myself. Like I came out of that ceremony like I'm
yeah.
done. I'm officially done making decisions personally and professionally, but mostly personal, based off of my own
Mm,
insecurities. And so in the past, I had chosen people based off of, well, I don't want to be
mm,
alone, or I'm going to choose them because they need me and they want me.
mm,
And that has to mean something.
yeah.
Um, or I would not choose people because I thought, oh, well, they're too attractive, they're too put together, they're too smart,
Mm,
they're too something that I'm not.
mm,
And when I realized my pattern of choosing people based off of my insecurity,
mm,
I came out of that and I said, oh, I'm going to rethink the people, just friends, but also
Yeah.
partners, how I choose people. Like there should be some mutual attraction, some
Yes.
mutual interest, and
Yes.
not just, oh, they're interested in me,
Yeah.
so let me give. No, 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 no. Wait a
Yes.
minute. What the hell am
Yeah.
I doing? Um, and so, boy, I'm really telling my business, but I joined a dating
Mm.
app, and that's where I met my
Mm.
partner. And I just said to myself, I'm going to choose, like, I'm going to swipe on, if I think the person's too pretty, if I think that they're too, quote unquote, put together, too something, like too good
Yeah.
for me. If I think that they are too good for me, I'm I'm swiping right.
Yes.
And can I just tell you that that happened in January with this, again, integrating all the things that came out of that plant
Mm.
ceremony. And I met the love of my life.
Mm.
We will be together almost a year. And so, and it's been every day joy,
Yeah.
everyday happiness, every single day
Mm.
of me being authentically myself.
Mm.
And I didn't know that that could exist. So as we're healing, again, integrating new information, integrating, making different
Mhm.
decisions. In our world, they call it like neuroplasticity and
Mhm.
whatever, whatever.
Mhm.
And I don't know that I have a new term for it. I just know that when you know better, you do better.
Yes. Yeah.
And I didn't want to keep making the same mistakes. So the same thing that I'm practicing personally,
Mhm.
I'm also doing the same thing professionally. If I think, oh, nobody's gonna want to like hear me, or I'm not good enough to write this book or that book, I'm writing the damn
Yeah.
book.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do the
Yeah.
thing,
Yes.
because what is that? Like, what is that?
Yes. Yeah. Yes.
So yeah,
It's like when we're conditioned to seek validation externally, and that's how we base all of our decisions and our judgments, is like, uh and then when you finally find that self-love and you're living out of that self-love, it's like, oh, no, 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 like, I don't care if anyone listens or reads, or it's like for me because it brings me joy, and that's what fucking matters. Like, I matter.
that's it.
Like,
Mhm.
and I feel that I relate to that 100%. Similarly, like, it was,
Yeah,
like, the external validation was like, based on perception, versus like, now, after a lot of therapeutic work and a lot of medicine, like, it is more like, how does this sit with me? Like, what do I think about
mhm.
it? What do I need? What do I want? Is this serving me? Right? Like, and even in tiny things, like, I mean, I have a shared household, so it's like, I'll do the dishes, but like, are you also doing the dishes? Right? Like, I
Mhm.
am not here
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
serve you.
Yeah,
Like, there is a sense of
yeah.
like equality and partnership, teamwork,
Mhm.
that shows
Absolutely.
up when you step out of certain systems. Like, the
Yeah,
expectations change because I matter, my time is valuable, my energy is valuable. So, like,
absolutely.
I give to you, and then that also needs to be reciprocated. You give to me, and does that feel
Mm,
good? And I think,
absolutely.
yeah, even in friendship, it's like, well, we create this role for ourselves. Like, well, I'm a good listener, right? We hold this self belief, like, I'm the listener. So then it's like, every time you're sitting with a friend and you're listening and you're listening and you're listening, and like, they're never asking about you, you've created this like dynamic, right? And then what do we do with that dynamic? Is it like, well, I'm never heard? Well, like, are you talking up? Are you setting a boundary? Are you asking to, like, be
Mm-hmm.
listened to. Um, so I think evaluating the role that we play within our own suffering is so important. Like, where is our
Mm-hmm.
accountability?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. That's that deeper work, that evaluating, like, what am I doing? And how am I contributing to my own problems, to my own
yeah,
suffering?
yeah,
How am I traumatizing my
yeah.
damn self?
That's real. That is the realish.
Nobody causes trauma, I cause
Yes,
it.
I am traumatizing myself. Yeah. Yes, that's real.
Yeah.
And even if you have that
Yeah.
awareness, like for me, for quite some time, it was like your second chapter of like, okay, I'm aware of it, I'm tending to it. That doesn't necessarily mean that anything in my life is changing, but I'm aware of it, right?
That's
Like,
I'm aware. That's where it
yeah,
starts.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then finally
Mhm.
I got to the point where I'm like, okay, now I'm ready to like live out of something new. I'm ready to choose me,
Yeah.
not live out of my insecurity, but live in my best life, make choices out of that.
Mhm.
And it
Mhm.
does, I mean, you talk about your 5 year grief period, like that's real. Like grief takes so long to even understand that
Mhm.
we're grieving, much less be in the
Mhm.
grief and feel the grief and understand how to work with that grief and to rest within it and know that it's not going to destroy us, like, you know.
Mhm.
um but it grief is, I hold the belief that grief is a lifelong journey. It's always going to be there.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah.
Mhm.
So I'm like very delighted that your book is out in the world, because I think it speaks to um just a real, a very realness that happens in growth that is often missed in the therapeutic world, in the healing world, right? Um,
Mhm.
and you're modeling and you're demonstrating not only your journey, but I think unconsciously the journey of many. And so, like, to put
Mhm.
language to that, to put structure to that, I think will help people just feel like seen, heard, not alone. So thank you for that.
Thank
Um,
you. Could I read something,
yes,
one other
yes,
passage for your
yes,
listeners?
please.
This one is called Self
Mm,
Pleasure, and I think it sums up our
mm,
conversation today. Love yourself slowly, passionately, intentionally. Whisper sweet nothings to your heart and to your body. Let all the previous versions of yourself know how beautiful and amazing you are. Look at yourself in the mirror. Be in awe of your inner beauty, intellect, smile, and resolve. Touch yourself in all the places that are starved for affection and attention. Self pleasure is self healing. Make promises to yourself that you're going to keep. Spend time engaging in activities that excite you. Spend time with people who connect you to loving yourself more and deeper.
mm. Yes, thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
thank you for letting me read
yeah.
that.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's a very good reminder and also invitation.
Yeah.
So, and I think when we can live each day an invitation, an opportunity, and yeah, it lends to a very different quality of life, especially if we can say yes to self pleasure, for sure. Yes.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Heather. This has been
Of
wonderful.
course. Well, you're always a joy. So thank you for being here. Thank you for saying yes. I appreciate it.
Always.
Yes. So, and I hope the rest of the season is wonderful for you and it's connected and joyful. Yes.
Same. Thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much. If you want to find Tasha's new book, you are going to go to, where are we going? Okay.
Amazon. Yep, they can go to Amazon. But I would really love it if they would order it from their local library or local small business
Okay.
bookstore, indie
Okay.
bookstore. Yeah, whatever's near them, order it from them, and yeah, let's support small business because Jeff Bezos has enough money. But
Yes. Yeah.
yeah,
Shop local,
hmm
please. It's almost Christmas
shop
time.
local.
Yes.
That's
Yes.
it.
Wonderful. So, and if people have questions or want to connect, they can find you on Instagram.
Yep, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, Tasha Hunter,
Okay.
LCSW.
Perfect. Awesome. All right, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.